the Bodie Show. Living on the water is the only life we know. Yo, ho, ho, ho. It's time for the Bodie Show.
Unlike most shows where we're talking about something that we can't talk about on the show before we start recording, today Stephanie was talking about something we can talk about on the show before we started recording. So we're going to pick up where we left off about...
Well, you haven't heard the end of it yet.
No,
so
that's why I said hold, please. We're going to pick up where we left off about...
But what if it's something that we can't talk about? It's too late now.
Too late now. This is going to be an adventure. This is exciting. This is about as exciting as the Bodie Show is going to get in January. But what if it's something we can't talk about?
What if it's something what will we do then?
So about like 47 seconds ago, Stephanie said that she wanted to take her recording setup to the curling rink that she goes to when do you go?
Every Wednesday.
And record some curling sounds.
Wednesday evenings.
But you can't record and curl at the same time.
You can't do anything and curl at the same time, which I think is where I was going, right? Is that what I was saying?
And then you started talking about your hair.
Yeah. That's true. Well, this is how I know that you really can't do anything and curl at the same time. And I think this might surprise some people because I think that generally maybe people think of curling as like not a lot of action, it's not like a fast moving sport.
I would agree that most people think it's like, oh, you slide a rock across the ice while you get hammered.
As it turns out, it's not true. It is very, very fast moving. In fact, I've been over there. I've done it 3 or 4 times, and my biggest, I feel like the biggest gain that I've made, that I said to my curling partner Rebecca on the way home last time, was, I'm not getting better, but I'm getting less stressed out about what I'm supposed to be doing from moment to moment because it's so intense in terms of because think about it, right? It's like sometimes you're shooting, sometimes you're delivering the rock, and if you're not doing that, then you're sweeping, and if you're not doing one of those things, you're getting the F out of the way because the other team has to be going at the same time. So or you're taking your slippery shoe or your sticky shoe on or off, and then trying not to step on the wrong foot on the ice and die, and then you're constantly it's very, very fast moving. And the point I was, I think, trying to make to you was that I put my hair up and down a lot, and my hair was up because I thought that was the right thing to do, sportier, right? Less in the way. But then I had my gloves on because that seemed like the right thing to do. I never quite know what the right thing to do is when I'm curling. But then my gloves kind of had gotten in my hair, and I could tell my hair was getting bigger and bigger, but there was no way that I could stop to change my hair. And it only takes 13 seconds to change, or maybe 3. But I didn't have time to
You didn't have between 3 and 13 seconds to change your hair in the midst of all of the curling.
There's almost never a moment where you're not doing something, and you take your eye, you stop. If I had stopped and taken off my gloves and taken out my hair tie and done something and retied it, I would have been like that girl. I would have been on the ice doing my hair as opposed to doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Now, are your relationships with the people you're curling with at the point now where they would have told you that you were being that girl, or would have they just smiled and been polite but silently judged you?
They're very Canadian.
Yeah, I know.
So they're very they probably wouldn't, no matter how well I know them.
Interesting. You need to have an insider on the Canadian side of this thing to tell you whether you're being a complete wackadoodle or not.
I have thought about that. This was a new group because we started in January, and so I think this is the group I'm going to be with. So instead of changing every time, I'm going to be with this little team going forward. So hopefully, we'll get a little bit more of a rapport.
You and Rebecca?
We're not on the same team though, because we're both terrible. So you wouldn't put both of us on the same team.
That's nice.
They spread out the Americans.
Do you think they've been having? Do you think they've been having lots of sidebar conversations about who's going to get stuck with the Americans, and that's why you've been hot potatoed around from team to team?
I cannot imagine any other scenario.
I want to go back for a second because you said your hair was getting bigger and bigger. Now I could describe that, but I would like you to.
Okay, and I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So my hair was up, and I had put it up, I thought, quite cautiously. Like there were like bobby pins involved, which is a lot for me. That's like
cautiously meaning you invested time and devices in securing said hair.
correct. And I will tell you, like I'm, you know, as you can imagine, this is a little outside of my comfort zone, all of it, right? And anything athletic is already outside of the comfort zone, and now it's curling, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I would like to make sure.
I think you undersell yourself when you wanted to get a weighted vest to start rucking. You went right to a 30-pound vest. 30 pounds. My doctor told me to start with 5, maybe 10.
It's true. It's just like it comes down to like you know I don't do a lot of this stuff. Like so when I go to my my room to like get dressed for curling, I'm just like, oh boy, like it's like I don't have a lot of athletic wear to start with to like work with to get the right outfit together. And the curlers are really put together. They've got the curling shoes, and they all seem to have this shared sense of curling fashion, which I can't quite get to. And then, so I tried to put my hair up in a way that it was just going to stay there. That's all. I wasn't trying to look good. I was just trying to get it to be in a place where it would not be in the way, and I could focus on the 50 billion other things that I had to think about while there.
Which slippery shoe, sticky shoe, which roll, rock, throw, or sweeper into the way, out of the way.
Which handle, are you in turn versus an out turn, trying to get it like on the broom.
Bro.
So it's the whole thing. It's just, there's a lot. I know. Anyway, but the one thing I didn't want to think about was my hair. But then I had these gloves, and they had like these little nubbins for grippiness on them, which seemed like a good idea. It seemed sporty.
Sporty grip nubbins.
I think what happened was I was trying to use those gloves to sort of smooth my hair, and then and then inevitably the little nubbins kept grabbing. They were like grabbing my hair, and so the more I tried to smooth it down, the more I was just pulling it out into like a big, like a curling afro. It was like it was like,
this is shit you can't make up.
it just kept getting worse instead of
Those
better.
words have never been put together ever in the history of words. Curling afro.
It was so bad. But there's nothing I could do because I also did not have time to take off the gloves and put them somewhere, and then like use my actual hands, which would have reduced static electricity and been more useful than the nubbly
grippy
gloves.
nub hair tugging. It's like I'm gonna have the hardest time picking a name for this episode, and we're only 8 minutes in.
It was, and then at one point there was a moment where Rebecca was on a sheet next to me, doing her thing. And we're always kind of like looking at each other, like, still alive? Yep, still alive. And then, and I looked at her and I was like, I feel like my hair is getting really big.
Were you able to vocalize that, or did you do it with like sign language?
No, I did it. I said it. I feel like it's getting really big. And she's like,
That's not a no.
That's not a no. She's like, I can't remember what she said, but it was very polite. She's the sweetest, so it was very polite. But it did give me an indication that my hair was indeed getting bigger and bigger. Another thing that no one said anything about, by the way. The curlers did not.
No, they didn't want to. They were like, I wonder how big it's going to get, eh? Like, the other American's hair is getting real big, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
No, that's so nice.
People may be wondering what this has to do with boats, but it's January. What is it today? It's Monday, January 13th when we're recording. This will air on the 15th. In January, like anything that if it's related to water, it's boaty.
Yes, and Canada feels boaty because you have to cross the bridge to get there, and there's a lot of watery physics going on when you're curling, and we talk about boats after we curl because there's mandatory drinking involved. So after curling,
the winning team buys the losing team a drink.
That's correct.
And then
each person, like for a person that goes first, second, third, and fourth, you buy your corresponding person on the other team a drink.
And do they just they send it over to you at the bar?
No, you wait for them up at the bar, which overlooks the curling rink, and you wait for them upstairs, and then when they come in, you say, "Can I buy you a drink? And what can I get for you?" And then you go up to the bar and you buy it for them.
And then you
go sit at these huge tables together. There's like eight tops. So two teams can sit together. So you sit together with your team and chit chat and drink.
do you just like, is it open-ended chit chat, or does it like wrap up at some point?
It's open-ended, but it's pretty late. Our curling stops at 9. So everyone has one drink and then giddy up, as opposed to if you're there for like a day of curling, then then it can go. It goes on and on, because then it's the normal thing is for the winning team, each person to buy their other a drink and then reciprocate, and then the other team would reciprocate and ask if they can buy one back. So usually there's 2 drinks per person between each curling.
But
match.
you do like winners buy and then you roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yes. In our case, we just usually do the one because it's very late.
9:00. Yeah, it's so late.
But then we do chit chat, and often it's about boats, which is nice.
Oh, really? What do you find?
Well, they're all from Gann. I mean, everyone's, they're all boaters, and they all live along the Parkway, and some of them are from Kingston, and they're all just they live in the same little neck of the woods that we do, just on the other side.
Yeah, Gann being Gananoque, Ontario, which is a town along the St. Lawrence River between Kingston and Brockville. Those are like the 3 main towns, at least in that stretch, Kingston to Brockville. So
exactly.
What boaty conversations have you gotten into in your post curling cocktail hour?
Well, the one that comes to mind is I was trying to chit chat with my skip, and that means captain
on your team.
And because he
skip on your team.
Yes, my skip on my team. Because to be honest, he seemed a little displeased with me. Like he just
was he upset at how big your hair had gotten?
It could have been that.
Could he, like couldn't see around you or something?
Or it could be the fact that I made some errors. I'm not reliable. I mean, the skip stands down at the other end and basically tells you what to do, and I almost never do what he says.
Is that because of your oppositional defiance disorder, or because?
No, it's just because I'm terrible at curling. But that's okay. But
is there some sort of charity program that's being run by the Canadian government to like bring dysfunctional Americans over and teach them curling?
No, I don't think so. In fact,
you guys just showed up and you're like,
often have is that people will be like, oh, you're from the US? And I was like, can't you tell? Like, I'm terrible at this. Like, I didn't curl in college like the rest of you. Are you kidding? Like, there's no curling in college. It doesn't happen in our side.
So what was the skip saying? What was the skip saying with you before you got
so the skip seemed generally displeased. So I sat next to him at the table, and I was chit-chat. I was trying to make some friendly chit-chat.
You're trying to smooth the ice.
Trying to smooth it over a bit. Yes, exactly. And so I asked him, like, where do you live? And he told me, and it was like, 2 kilometers from here or something. And then I said, well, have you always lived there? And he said, nope, I used to live out west. And I was like, where is that? I was kind of having to pull it out of him a little bit. You know what I mean?
Because he's grinding his teeth because he said, hurry hard, and you hurried right.
It's true. It is true. It was one of the problems is each skip says, like, get your ass in gear and sweep differently. Some people say yes. Some people say hard. Some people say, anyway, sweep. So everyone says something different. It's hard to know when to sweep. Anyway, so I did ask him where, and he said Alberta, and I was like, oh, did you like it? And he's like, no.
One word answers. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, I know. I think
How big was your hair at this point?
I fixed my hair by this point. Okay. Thank God. And then he basically went on to say the reason he didn't like Alberta was there's no water. And then I was like, oh, thank God, something we can talk about. So then we talked about water. We talked about boating, and we talked about fishing. And he and his wife do a lot of fishing on the lake. They live near Kingston. So that was delightful.
What kind of boat does he have?
That's a really good question.
Did you get there?
I mean, I don't know if I did, and now I feel like I failed. Like, what was I doing?
Well, no, you succeeded in like getting through a awkward one-word answer, like teeth grinding skip conversation to like talking a little bit about a shared interest, boats, water, fishing. Good.
Yeah. We talked about, I did tell him that the only time that I'd really spent much time on the lake itself was when you and I did the salmon fishing, which was very uppy, downy, make me nauseous-y. Yeah. And he was kind of like,
serves you right. It's like, I don't care. It's like, good.
Yeah. I would have to say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say that the skip liked me about a 1 when we started the conversation, maybe like a 1.5 when it was over.
Did he lose? I'm wondering if he like lost a bet and that's why you're on his team or something. He's like, or he lacked seniority because he just gotten there from Alberta.
We did win. We did win.
Oh, good.
We did win, and we won sort of handily. And I definitely made 2 shots that were really good. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have my own broom now because my curling mentor, Bud Andrus from Hill Island, who you know,
yeah,
he showed up to watch me and bring me my own broom because his wife retired from curling, and he brought me a broom, and he wrote my name on it and everything.
That's so cool. You got your own curling broom. Do you bring it with you, or do you like have a locker there?
It's still in the backseat of my car. So and the other day I went out and there was snow on my car, and I opened up the back seat and I looked at it and I was like, that might do.
And did you use it?
No.
Okay, good.
I had a snow brush, so I didn't use the curling broom, but I was like,
because like if you showed up and you like started sweeping the ice and there was a bunch of like salt on your curling broom,
nothing would be worse.
You like smear a bunch of like road dirt onto the.
Yeah, I would never be
I'm glad you.
back.
I'm really glad. I simultaneously am a fan of these ridiculous situations, but also of you succeeding. So on one hand, I kind of want you to like smear a bunch of like dirty salt on the ice so I can hear about what happens. And then on the other hand, I'm glad you used your snow brush and didn't use your curling broom to clean off your car because I'm rooting for your success.
This is a real tension for you, isn't it?
It is. It's like I'm like kind of a nice person, but I'm also kind of a dick. So it's like, hard.
It really reminds me of when you were standing on the dock watching me try to get the chains connected. It's the same energy.
You were snorkeling. It is the same energy. You were wearing
exact energy.
You're
doing great, and I am laughing at you, and I am mercilessly making fun of you.
But I'm not. I'm trying not to.
I want you to succeed. Anyway, it's great. I appreciate both of those. I'm right there with you.
You're snorkeling.
That's how I see myself as well.
I'm dying that you got a curling afro from your sticky nubby gloves, and Jen is like, ooh. Yeah, your hair's pretty big, but I'm too nice to say anything.
Rebecca was like,
Rebecca, not Jen. Oh God, and
okay,
Rebecca's.
And I don't know how we ended up here.
Yeah, we
a pre-recorded conversation.
This was, but I think it's time we start to break the fourth wall of what we talk about before we get on the show. And it's also 18 minutes of January Bodie show. We should talk. Rebecca is the executive director of the Antique Boat Museum.
That is correct.
The Antique Boat Museum in Clayton, which is world renowned for its collection of antique boats. Yeah. And Rebecca runs the whole shebang and has for some time.
Yeah, she has for a long time. She's been holding it down for a long time over there. They do a great job, and she had only curled once before we joined this league. And but she's doing great. She's totally she's very cool, calm, and collected. She's got it all under control.
Okay, I think we're gonna count that as we got a lot to talk about today. We like sat down and we started making our list of things to talk about, and it got full featured. And I think we could skip what I've been up to. I went on a massive New England college tour with Walker, his friend Rowan, and Rowan's dad Ty, and we had a great time. Nothing particularly boaty about it, but we saw a bunch of schools, and we got some skiing in, which was fun. But the other thing I've been up to is I've been working on this book I'm writing called "You Teach the Machines," and it's really a human's guide to AI, not just like understanding what it is, but understanding the implications in your life and how to use it and all this stuff. And so I was like, I wonder what's going on with AI and boats. And turns out what's going on with AI and boats is what's going on with AI just about everywhere else. But I'll focus in on one thing, which is I found a really cool research article that was in 2018 was studying how to improve upon the object detection in radar. So when you got a really big boat, you need to know where the small boats are so that you can pretty much honk your horn at them because you can't really do anything else. And object detection and radar of especially small object detection, like a small boat or a buoy or a bird, is a signal processing deal where you get returns on radar from all kinds of stuff, like a raindrop. And So there's some research going on into how to improve upon the signal processing algorithms that have been used for a long time to like decide that like bunch of radar return is a Boston whaler with a dead motor versus a buoy versus a bunch of spray getting torn off the top of a wave. And that's like a good use case for AI because it's really good at learning things from like kind of messy data. And that's the machine being taught to do something useful. And then there's like a lot of other stuff like with AI, there's a ton of marketing that happens around like anything where there's a little bit of math that a computer does to like do something and they're calling it AI. But I'm writing like the 2 most depressing chapters about AI right now.
What
So
are the 2 depressing chapters?
if you detect like some cynicism in my voice, it's because like every night last week after I came home from the library where I'm writing, I was like, oh my God, this is so fucked up.
Can you give us a glimpse?
And that was actually, I wrote the first of the 2 most depressing chapters, and it's not the most depressing of the two. So, so I wrote last week. I drafted the chapter, and it was like a little bit the week before, but it was on the reality that we are in the midst of the first phase of a new industrial revolution. And for example, the company Microsoft bought all of the electricity that can be generated by the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant for the next 20 years. So they bought 20 years worth of electricity from a nuke power plant, and every other big AI company is starting up nuke projects like as many as they can, like it's going out of style. And that is I don't want to bore everybody or talk too much about the book.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah. Go.
Wasn't somebody else using that power?
No, it had been shut down in 2022 by its current owner because there was the economics of electricity generation from natural gas and versus the economics of electricity generation from nuclear energy were such that they shut it down. Plus, it's an old plant and it's got a bad rap because the worst nuclear accident in our country's history happened there. 3 Mile Island.
Right.
Unit 2 melted down when I was 6 years old, and we lived within the evacuation zone. And I talk about that in the book about how like I have a very, very distinct memory of not going to school because school was closed, and so I'm staying home. And my mom, it was March, and it was like an unseasonably warm March, and I'm like fired up because we lived on a farm. We had horses and chickens, and I think that was it. There might have been some goats, and I wanted to like do what I do, go out, run around. And my mom says, nope, can't go outside today. And I have a very distinct memory of her closing the window over the kitchen sink because the day after Unit 2 melted down, the communications, which were a mess, finally, basically put 2 and 2 together and had people like stay inside and close the windows because radioisotopes, like, yeah, they can't get in.
Oh my God.
So
all right, hold on. I have like 15 questions.
Okay.
And I know that we can't spend 15 questions worth of time on this, but like, okay, so is Microsoft going to like fix it up? They're going to make it so that it's better and somehow make it like so that the cost-effective thing is fixed and it's not so old?
They're going to pay a pile of money, effectively guarantee the purchase of this power, probably at a premium rate for 20 years. And
that's going to make it worth it for somebody to come in and fix it all up.
And then the company that owns it is going to, in all likelihood, try and get a big federal chunk of change to restart the thing and fix it up. and the big AI companies, which would like it if you called them big tech companies, because that's a way for them to skate under the radar of what they're actually doing. They're looking at nuke power because it doesn't generate carbon. It does generate radioactivity and ideally in the form of solid waste, which we still haven't as a country figured out what we're going to do with. And there are some encouraging technologies around actually basically burning down the nuclear fuel that would previously have been just like buried in a salt mine, and so that we generate less waste, less hazardous waste. So I'm not saying one thing or the other about nuclear power. I'm just saying that Microsoft took a publicity hit, or the risk of a publicity hit, when they did this and announced it. We're going to have to make this. Oh, I can make this Bodhi.
Okay.
Well, we were talking about AI and the
boats. I know.
the,
And I know we're
research
like a
and radar.
little- yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all right. It's January. Like, we got to talk about something.
Do it up. I know. I love it. I'm into it.
So Microsoft's decided, yeah, we'll take the risk of a publicity hit for doing this deal. And hey, shut your trap, giant pitbull. And then literally the week after, Meta, Google, Amazon all said, yeah, we also have nuke plants in the works. We've done deals. We've invested. We have permitting applications in process to build new. It's because they don't want to burn fossil fuels to generate the crazy amount of electricity that they're planning on needing over the next 10, 20 years for AI. So
Okay, can you just briefly
Probably not.
What is it they're gonna do? No,
Probably
just
not.
real quick. Why do they need that much power?
because you got to run computers with electricity to do AI.
So they just have to buy enormous like warehouses full of computers.
Yeah, that's a whole other story, which since you said real quick, I'm not going to go into. But
But bottom line is they're
Bottom line-
going to need a lot more computers than they have now to run the AI, to do the blah blah, to do the whatever.
Yep, to teach the machines.
To teach the machines, right? Which you've talked to me about, and I do know what you mean.
Yep.
But are we coming? Doing so? Okay,
I'll make
so
this
that
boaty.
all I get all of that.
I'll make this
okay,
boaty.
back to the boats.
I'll make this boaty. Ready?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So in the episode we did in Brooklyn, where you and Missy surprised me with my parents' submission of the dory, that beautiful little rowboat that I grew up in. We used to take that over to the Susquehanna River, not too far from 3 Mile Island, and take it out and row it around. And there were freshwater mussels in the Susquehanna at the time. This was post Unit 2 melting down. I was probably 7, 8. My sister was 3 years younger than me, and we would row up and down the Susquehanna. That was like one of our destinations, to take that boat and go rowing around, and go swimming in the Susquehanna, which was clean. We were swimming in cooling water that had been, actually, for the most part, that plant sucks up water out of the Susquehanna, uses it to cool, and then vents it as steam. So they don't discharge it back into the into the river. And all of the radiation that had been discharged was discharged into the air. They vented it. So, but that, Susquehanna right next to 3 Mile Island, rowing around in that boat that I grew up in. So
That's
there
amazing.
you go. Yeah. So we can make anything, Bodhi. What do you got?
All of this comes back to what you've been up to, which is writing a book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that where we started?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to practice get better at answering the quickly.
No, that's not, I
request.
don't think that's true. I think we just, as long as we're tracking, because I think what you were actually telling us about was about the two most depressing chapters.
Yeah, the first one is effectively that we've skipped right to industrial AI from the entrepreneurial, grow the whole pie, everybody benefits phase, and now there's the concentration of basically of capability, bandwidth, and ultimately economic power with 4 companies. And so that was depressing to write. And then the next chapter that I was supposed to start today but didn't, is pitfalls and side effects.
Pitfalls and side effects of AI.
So it's like the chapter I wrote last week wasn't the bad news. So the chapter I'm supposed to write this week is the bad news. But the last chapter is the good news, and we're going to end on a high note.
All right. Well, and then once you're through these chapters, the other 17 chapters are going to be nothing but sunshine.
I got one more chapter to draft in this thing, and it's the bad news.
First of all, you're writing a book, which is amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to read it. It's going to be great. And I believe, now that I know that there's depressing chapters, I will know, I'll be able to calibrate effectively.
Yeah.
And then move past all of that. But
it's depressing, but it's also, you got to know this stuff because that's what's going on. It's like there's good things and bad things with everything. Let's move back to the topic of our Jimmy Jam, this podcast. I want to acknowledge that there are tens of thousands of people who've been affected by the fires in Los Angeles. That is ongoing currently. It's, when you hear this, it's Wednesday. The forecast for this week is for the winds to build back up. The Santa Anas are staying dry and getting stronger, and
including our friends Blake and Patrick, who have been on the show.
Oh, and our friend Garrison Starr,
Yep.
yeah, who hasn't been on the show, but we've referenced a number of times. She's a musician,
Yep. And Beck Cohen.
and Beck Cohen, who's
But I don't know. I only know that Blake and Patrick were okay a few days ago, but they had to move locations and stuff.
and that's our story, and most people listening to this have a story of who they know, or
Totally.
and it's fires are often wildfires that threaten some structures, but this is a out of control wildfire, wild in the sense that it's like wildly burning out of control in a city, and it's really terrible. The tie-in to the Bodhi show is that you've become fascinated by the floating planes, the
amphibious planes,
the amphibious
scoop up
planes,
water, the super scoopers. Yeah. Well, it was funny because I was texting with Blake and Patrick super briefly. I'm sure they have a billion people being like, "Are you okay?" And I wrote back because I'd been talking to my other friend who lives in California, and she'd been telling me recently about how they're always coming up with new weather terms.
Yeah.
She was laughing about like the atmospheric river that they were. It was like rain, but it was not rain. Wasn't exciting enough, so they were calling it an atmospheric river. And I just remember I wrote to Blake and Patrick. I wish I could just reroute an atmospheric river. Right? Because we all feel that way. Like if only there was some way to just take water and just sort of put it.
Just calm and cool and put out and
yeah. It's just like all you can think about when you look at it, right? It's just like where is and then the next thing I know, my like Instagram algorithm is showing me these pictures of these amazing amphibious airplanes that are just scooping up. They're just going back and forth. They're from Quebec, which was amazing. So they were from Quebec, and then I did see at least one from Ontario. And there could be that I'm only seeing the Canadian ones because my algorithm knows me so well. But it could be that, who knows? But I was seeing these Canadian planes, which was like, and they were just, and it was so satisfying to just see a situation where something was just going in and just scooping up water out of the Santa Monica Bay or whatever, and then just dumping it, and then just going back and getting more and dumping it, and watching it was just really satisfying and beautiful. And it was particularly poignant, I think, because I had just come from the night of curling where our Canadian neighbors were talking about whether or not they were going to become the 51st state. And there was something gratifying about seeing, other countries show up for each other in a really selfless way. Right.
Yeah. I also saw a news report that a military aircraft full of expert firefighters from Mexico flew into LA a couple days ago.
Yeah. So that's beautiful stuff. Yeah.
The Super Scooper is pretty wild. So it's the CL415. It skims the surface of a lake or the ocean. And these are Canadian-made water bombers. And they quickly scoop up a whole bunch of water and then go dump them on the flames. And this is important because they can carry a lot more water than a helicopter. And if you've seen any of the video of the fires, I'm sure you have, listeners, these pilots are like, they're flying into hell, right? Like into these updrafts of superheated air to drop water. And the planes just basically do a lap. They do a continuous loop, like you said, from the bay in Santa Monica to Palisades, wherever this stuff is. But the Super Scooper, I'm going to read a little bit of an article I found. So Super Scooper skims the water surface at 100 miles an hour, collects 1,600 gallons in under 12 seconds. Then the pilot flies over to the fire and drops the load directly above it, circles back to repeat. The government of Quebec loaned 2 Super Scoopers to LA officials on a seasonal basis to help combat wildfires and has been doing so for more than 30 years. Wow. So they're not just like, hey, it's fine. And so that makes sense. I mean, the fire season in Quebec is not, January, February. So of the 2, only one is currently operational. The other was temporarily grounded after a civilian drone flying above the Palisades fire damaged its wing. This reinforces my I guess it's my oppositional defiant disorder instinct that whenever I see a drone hovering, I want to shoot it. And when I can't, I give it the finger. But
which I'm assuming is most of the time that you can't shoot it.
So far, all the time. But any drone pilots out there that may have hovered your drone over Crystal Bay next to Thousand Island Park on the St. Lawrence River and, hovered your drone in a way that made me think you were creepily observing my 2 daughters in their bikinis while they were swimming. And I gave you not just the finger, I gave you 2 fingers with fist pump back and forth action, and then you left. Next time I might shoot your fucking drone. All right, I'm just saying. Super Scooper has a wingspan of 93 feet, length of 65 feet. They can onboard. They can mix the water with foam concatenate. So like foam concentrate. I'm sorry, to make its drops more efficient. So they can like make it more filmy so that it spreads and doesn't just like evaporate on the way down. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. There was something really, really satisfying about seeing the repetitive movement of water in that way that just, in a moment where it seemed unbelievably important. So
they have 4 doors, and they can either open all 4 doors in what they call a salvo drop, or they can open them sequentially to disperse the water over a wider area.
Fascinating. And all of this is just also making me think about the Quebec wildfires, which happen every year. But one year, a couple years ago, remember, they went the wrong way, and then the whole East Coast, or actually not even just the East Coast, but most of America got completely shrouded in smoke. Remember that?
It was New York, Philly, DC, and everybody in between had to deal with wildfire smoke, which typically is just something that happens over there on the West Coast.
But it usually happens. It happens every year in Quebec. It's just that usually there's the westerly winds are prevailing, and in that moment there were north winds, and then everybody from New York City was like, "Where's Quebec? What's happening?"
Yeah.
Anyway, there we are.
That
is a moment. We were super serious, but also like, I don't know, there's a little bit of beauty here and there.
Yeah, like you said, another country pulling for their southern pain in the ass neighbor.
Yeah.
And and another country, Mexico, pulling for their northern pain in the ass neighbor. And it turns out that neighbor is the same pain in the ass to both of these countries. Yeah.
I will say that I didn't know anything about, and I'm not trying to talk politics, but I didn't know that we were about to take over Canada when I went curling, because I don't watch a lot of news coverage because I just don't have the energy right now. So, and it was fascinating. It was fascinating in that, post curling, let's share a drink, evening, getting to listen to, the Canadians in a very polite and friendly way, explain to me what was going on in the world, in my country. Because
President-elect Trump had just announced at a press conference about taking over Canada.
Yeah.
I can't stop laughing because I'm like, we got a lot of other shit to deal with, and we're going to take over Canada because of a relatively minor portion of our trade deficit with them. Okay, man. I hope it works out.
I did not know about it. It was along with my crazy hair and my not very good geographic understanding of where Alberta is. I also didn't know we were about to take over.
I think the people you were sitting with were like probably like breathing a sigh of relief, because they're like, this crazy bitch from America with her curling afro is probably, if she's how they're taking us over, it's probably not going to happen.
And then they're like, okay, fine, send the airplanes anyway.
Send the airplanes anyway. Like, she's got sticky nubs on her gloves that are pulling her beehive apart. Oh shit! They're not too worried. They're like, they probably just deciding which team to put you on, because they're like, she may be an advance agent of the invasion. Sent on Wednesday night curling to gather intelligence for the cross-border incursion.
You're totally underestimating how helpless I seem.
No, that's exactly what you would do if you were trying to gather intelligence.
So I don't have curling shoes, and you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked to find out that I don't have curling shoes. So I have to put slippery tape on my left shoe every time I go to curling. I have to put the slippery tape on the bottom so I can slide.
Yeah.
And so I came all the way home with it. And the next morning I was going to work, and I was like,
"Shut up."
Yeah.
Stop. Did you fall down the stairs?
I was like,
"Did you fall down?"
I'm going to work on my slippery shoe.
You were flexing. You were flexing right up until the moment you stepped inside the lobby and ate it.
It wasn't sticky anymore because I'd accidentally worn it across the parking lot. It wasn't slippery anymore.
Slippery.
It was, but it was really stupid looking. It was kind of like if you have toilet paper stuck to your shoe, but like way worse because there's so much of it.
Do you think the
It was
Canadians
really amazing.
saw you wearing
Yeah.
it out the door and they're like, okay, never mind. Like,
Yeah. Probably did. Should we say something? No. Just send the airplanes to LA. It's fine.
like, yeah, just send the planes to LA. It'll be okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Jesus. We can
Got it. We need a segue. What's next? We got to have something boaty on the list.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Los Angeles County Fire Department fireboats.
I would like to know about that.
Yeah. Turns out, Port of Los Angeles, like largest port in the U.S., all the cargo comes in and out. And if you remember during the pandemic, all the ships anchored out there because all the cargo comes in and out of L.A. from China. But
Yep.
so L.A. the Los Angeles Fire Department has had fireboats for a long time. First one, 1909. There were two tugs, the Warrior and the Falcon, and they leased a couple of tugs after the city annexed San Pedro and started to actually get the port going. And the fire department of the county fire department assumed waterfront firefighting responsibilities. And those two were just straight tugboats with water cannons. And the next one is the Aeolian. 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 Aeolian.
You
So
got this.
so this thing.
Should we have? Maybe there's an AI. Could AI pronounce it better?
Right. Probably. So that thing served from 1916 to question mark. So the Los Angeles first fireboat, this is like not the one they leased, the Aeolian, probably was of one of a kind because its sole firefighting capability was a 60-gallon bicarbonate of soda and sulfuric acid chemical supply, which when mixed and discharged through the reeled hose formed an extinguishing agent. The boat also carried a short ladder for boarding lumber schooners and other vessels, purchased in 1915 and believed to have been built in Seattle. The 20-foot-long craft went into service in 1916. I'm going to assume the question mark is because they don't know what really happened to this thing. It is beautiful. It's like this gorgeous launch with like nice, simple shear line. It's got
I want to see it.
yeah, well, I sent you the link. Two guys with jaunty caps. It's got a siren on it. It's really pretty. I'm guessing it wasn't really all that effective at big fires. Like a lumber schooner that's on fire, you got 60 gallons of baking soda. It's probably not going to do much. So then there was the steam ferry. Starting in 1917, Los Angeles used these Emma Skegg and Knott steam fire. Horse-drawn from their station and loaded on the barge, they were towed to fires. So they were like two steam engines that they'd put on a barge and take out to the fire. So I think
How come I can't hear you right now?
because I turned it down because I was getting some weird feedback, which seems to have gone away.
All right.
I turned it back up.
As you do.
So it seems like they were figuring their action out. They got the Aeolian, which somebody probably looked at and was like, "Ooh, that's hot," and they bought that as a fireboat. It was like much hotter than the tugs. And then they got a barge and they put a couple of like regular fire engines that you'd tow to a fire with a steam pump on them. But then in 1919, they got fireboat number 1, the Archibald J. Ellie. Fireboat number 1 was commissioned in 1919. It was purchasased for $33,000 and is all wood construction, 65 feet long, 17 and a half foot beam, 39 gross tons with a total pumping capacity of 2,000 gallons per minute. It's pretty also. It looks like
It's beautiful.
yeah. It looks kind of like if somebody were to draw a really pretty tugboat, that's what it looks like.
But yeah, long and like not a lot of what do you call that when it when it goes down? Sheer, like a gentle sheer.
Yeah,
as opposed to like a lot of tugboats have like a very steep one.
Yeah, like a gentle sweeping sheer. Yeah, and the front doesn't go up too high like a lot of tugboats do. Yeah,
it's lovely.
Yeah.
I'm very into it.
Pretty pilot house with windows all around for visibility.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, and then fireboat. That was 50 years, 1919 and 1969. And then fireboat number 2, so that was fireboat number 1, the Archibald J. Ellie. Fireboat number 2, the Ralph J. Scott, 1925 to 2003. Holy cow.
Wow, no way. Talk about longevity.
Listed on the National Register of Historic Places, National Historic Landmark. Los Angeles City number 2, a state-of-the-art fireboat with many innovations, was built at the Los Angeles Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Corporation, otherwise known as the Todd Shipyard, in San Pedro. was launched October 20th, 1925. The $214,000 fireboat, later renamed Fireboat 2, the Ralph J. Scott, originally was gasoline powered and rated at 10,200 gallons per minute.
Oh, yeah.
So 5 times as much water pumped
Yep.
as Fireboat number 1.
Big difference.
Oh, wait till you see LA's
Hold on. I'm looking.
number 3.
Oh. Hello.
LA City number 3, commissioned March 22nd, 1928, all wood construction, served from 1928 to 1967. So the Fireboat 2,
Yeah.
1925 to 2003. It doesn't say if it was built out of wood or steel. I'm going to guess not wood, but maybe.
Yeah. It doesn't say. You know what else? Did you see it's listed? You said listed on National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah.
So interesting. I didn't even know that was possible. Okay. For a boat.
I bet it's still, if it's listed, I bet you can go check it out. So number 3 was commissioned in 1928, all wood, 38 feet long, 10.5 feet wide.
Not as many gallons per minute.
Only 800.
Pretty though.
Yeah. Very pretty.
Oh God! Look at the next one.
You like
Holy
it?
shit. I do.
Look at all those. It's got hoses spouting off on there's 75 different hoses shooting water in 75 different directions.
You know, I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm going to just say that the hull is delightful.
Yeah.
And I want that boat.
Beautiful shear line. Yeah. So these boats reference tugboats in a way, but they're not as extreme in that a tugboat will have it'll be super wide and fat or have
right, because they're not. I mean, a tugboat's a pusher too, right?
Yeah,
And these aren't. That's not what they're doing, right? They're just getting through water.
Yeah, and they've got tall, proud bows, but they're not massive.
Yeah.
Built in 1962. This is the number 4, the Bethel F. Gifford, 76.5 feet, 24 feet wide. That's pretty wide. 9,000 gallons per minute. So just under the one that was from 1928. Right. Los Angeles Fireboat number 2, still in service, the Warner L. Lawrence.
This one I would have to say that from a visual perspective, no thank you. But I hope that it saves lots of lives.
Yeah, I believe it's based on a straight up modern tugboat hull. So sometimes when you see modern tugboats, they look like they're almost circular. The hull is almost round.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And the pilot house is all about visibility, front, back, up, down, left, right, and it looks kind of like a greenhouse. A circular greenhouse that's right in the middle of the whole shebang. And this thing is all business. It's got giant water.
It's all business, exactly. It's very much built for a job. I mean, I'm glad to know that there is one boat that I don't want, and this is it.
This is episode 50, and we finally.
I would take the next one though.
Yeah, fireboats 1, 3, and 5. So they're all in service. That's a cool little speedboat looking thing. It looks like it's meant to get wherever the fire is real quick and start laying. Yeah, you would start laying water on it. While Fireboat 2 takes its time getting there because it's a monster, and then that thing starts dumping all the water.
So because we just talked about the Super Scooper airplanes, I'm just going to assume that these boats are going to suck water from underneath and then pump them out, right? Do you know? I'm asking you questions like you know.
I don't know that for a fact, but I will say that is a safe assumption.
Okay. I mean, there's the one thing that a boat would do well, which a plane is obviously learning how to do. But in this case, I'm assuming that these guys just which it must be interesting physics to do that, right?
To pump water?
Well, I mean, there's got to be some way to pull it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's simple.
I think it's pretty simple. You got a hole in the bottom of the boat connected to a giant pump, and the giant pump sucks water and routes it through some pipes to the cannon, which shoots it. I don't mean to be a. I mean, we've already discussed how I'm kind of a nice guy, but also kind of a dick.
Thinking is there a reservoir where they're pulling it in, they're holding it, and you have to worry about ballast and how much of it, all of that. But no, it's just when our friend showed up to pump out my sinking boat last summer. It's just it's just a pump, right? It's as simple as that. You just throw it in, and it goes water from one place to the other. Boom.
Just a pump. Yeah, exactly.
It's just a pump. Okay.
I mean, at 10,200 gallons per minute, which is the biggest one that we read about, and that the more modern one looks like it probably would at least double that, maybe triple. 10,000 gallons per minute. That's more than 1,000 gallons a second. 1,000 gallons a second. 1.35 or 4 gallons. About 1,300 1,300 gallons a second getting pumped through the hole in the bottom of the boat out the water cannons. That's a lot of water moving.
So did you bring this up? Do you know whether these boats have, I'm assuming that they played a role in what's going on?
Not that I could find in any news reports, but
Okay.
I wanted to talk about the fire department, the Los Angeles Fire Department, who like they're laying it all on the line to defend their city and do as much as they can to protect people and structures.
And it's very cool.
Yeah, and these are the boats that they have to fight fires in the harbor. Speaking of, yeah, you know what? We were going to talk about our conversation with really nice representatives from the Philadelphia Water Department earlier, but I think we can skip that.
Okay.
And
Once we get a little bit more together.
yeah. But we talked about it a little bit on the last show. We're developing, some relationships with the Philadelphia Water Department and some local historians to talk about some pretty exciting, water supply and environmental conservation projects that are happening around Philadelphia on the Schuylkill River, on multiple rivers, Schuylkill and Delaware in particular, but mostly the Schuylkill. And one of which is flowing water through the Manioc Canal again. And so the segue I have from that is, speaking of canals and shipping boats through them, you wanted to talk briefly about the Seaway shipping closing?
I don't have much to say except that there have been a couple of moments. This was a big topic for Save the River, where I used to work, and they are still, doing their thing. And the Seaway wanted to be year round, and Save the River, way back before any of us were involved, they stopped that from happening, which was a big deal. But I did notice usually it always closes before the end of December, and this year there were definitely boats in January, and I had a number of people who just were like, "Why are they still shipping?" And it was wild, and I don't really know, except obviously there's not a lot of ice, but this year there is more ice than usual. So
Tell us about
I think it's interesting.
Tell us about the ice situation on the St. Lawrence. What are you seeing?
There is definitely more ice in the last couple of years, which is, to me, really good news. Like, the bays are frozen. It's solid. Like, people are ice fishing. There's tons of ice fishing in the usual places. But yeah, we've had serious cold weather for an extended period, which is great.
Cool. So hearing about ice fishing in bays is exciting. We used to have a party every President's Day? No.
Yeah, President's Day.
Yeah, President's Day weekend. We called it, we were real creative.
Real creative.
What do we call it?
Ice party.
And we've talked a little bit about it in the past, but when there was good ice and sometimes when there was like not great ice, but maybe good enough, we would go out, light a fire, try and get some skating going, like clear snow off of the ice and that kind of thing. And had a good time. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, it's been colder this winter than last.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe it's time. Let's do it. We've got 2 weeks to plan it. Let's go.
No, we did it in February.
You're right. It's mid-February. Yep. No, I think it's a great idea. I think we should do it.
Yeah.
It is so, there's something really fun about it.
Yeah.
I miss it.
And that's like roughly that's when all of a sudden the days are longer. And so you're not celebrating summer or the change of seasons, but like you're getting some more light, which is.
Yeah. And even now, I mean, like I would. Yeah. Anyway, it is. The days are getting longer. It's noticeable. I appreciate it.
I like light.
No. Do you want to tell everybody what you're sitting under?
So I was talking to my psychiatrist like a month ago, and I'm like, I've been having a lot more non-specific anxiety, and like I don't know why, what's going on, and my energy's real, I'm tired. And she's like, have you tried a light box? I'm like, no.
She's like, why?
So she prescribed a light box for me. She said, you can get the cheap ones on Amazon, but you pretty much have to like stick them an inch in front of your face to get the desired effect. So instead I got this thing called Daylight, and it looks like a computer monitor almost. It's got this big ass thing. And I've done my own, done my own sort of dumbass clinical research where like I used it for like 2 weeks straight, and it really had a solid effect on me. Like my energy levels, mood, anxiety, all this stuff were better. And then like over Christmas, which is like one of my least favorite times of year, I didn't use it. And then I was like, why am I so anxious and mad?
Did you just blame it all on Christmas because you're a Grinch?
And then I started using it again. I was like, oh, that's why.
Oh boy,
Christmas
I love that.
sucks.
You're so grumpy. I'm gonna go get one. I love that. Send me a link.
It's cool. Like I get up in the morning and like I try and read like a book. I try not to look at my phone, and I try and read a book while I'm sitting in front of it before 9. And I went and found some papers that, like, there's really, really solid clinical evidence behind this, like, double blind controlled trials. And I don't know, I don't know what the placebo is for one of these giant lamps, but just straight up works. I
love that.
Yeah.
I love it. Fabulous.
It's super
I'm on
simple.
board.
Super simple. You just have to remember to do it and not be bonehead.
Not just blame everything on Christmas.
But there's clinical evidence behind that too. There's clinical evidence that says Christmas is bad.
You're probably right.
Right. All right. Wait. We got it. All right. You have a surprise for me.
I don't. I forgot what it is.
You got one job.
I'm sorry.
One.
I know. I'm really. That's why I was like trying to look in my texts. I'm like, did I write something down?
No. You know what? Besides giving us the surprise topic, you've given
my
us
hair.
Well, you've given us a lot today, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So I think you could be excused from giving us a surprise topic off of the topic list.
But wait, don't we have a boat of the week though?
We do. We do.
Okay,
but
good.
before we get there, Captain David, who might be the fan we are the most fond of, but it's so hard to decide. All of our
I don't
fans
know
are
about
amazing.
that. Easy there, Tiger.
Hey, listeners, you in your car right now, you're our favorite fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're wandering into weird territory, but
Yeah.
but
And, like, every time we wander into
Captain David is devoted, as are many of our listeners,
Yeah, man.
which we love.
Thanks, Captain David, as are many. So Captain David, he sent some emails, and the first was titled Whaler Mea Culpa, because a few episodes ago, I was like, I spent a lot of time just bagging on Boston Whalers and admitted that I was wrong. And he said, not bragging, as I used to make a bit of money selling used whalers as a side gig, over 60 sold. But your ride on the small river is why people love them. And if you spend any time in rough water, 2 feet or more of waves, you will curse Mr. Fisher for looking at the sea sled and thinking, hey, I can make this cheap out of fiberglass. so people love them when it's not too wavy.
When it's calm.
Yeah, when it's calm.
Fair point.
And so let us do what we love to do. You ready?
Let's go.
It's the boat of the week, stable and sleek. Check out that vessel, baby, isn't she sweet? It's the boat of the week, the boat of the week. Ooh, how I love me, the boat of the week. Da 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 da. Hey, yeah, let's check out the boat of the week.
Well, that was relaxing.
Oh my God.
Right?
Cam David submitted a boat of the week, and
I already looked at it. It's ridiculous.
let's see what he said. Always like the modern Chris Crafts, especially the long bow type.
It's ridiculous.
It's good. All right, so I'm trying to find the.
Hold on, I gotta get it here. I'm just pulling it up. But I remember it from before. I looked at it earlier.
Everybody who's listening is like, just the two of us have just been moaning. Like, oh God.
So, okay.
Not 2014 Chris Craft launch 32 feet long. This thing's hot.
32.
Yeah. It's just a big day boat.
Yeah. It's so lovely.
Chris Craft launched.
Go ahead.
Chris Craft launched 32, a stunning used boat from the renowned manufacturer Chris Craft. This boat boasts both style and functionality, making it the perfect vessel for avid boaters and beginners alike. The Launch 32 model is known for its sleek design and powerful performance on the water. This specific boat runs on gasoline, making it a convenient and efficient choice for this thing's friggin' beautiful. So it's a modern speedboat. It's got a long pointy bow and a hull like the running surface that that it rides on the water on that looks a lot like a cigarette boat, like a Donzi or a big,
Yeah, you're
like
not
a big,
wrong.
a big Formula. But instead of being like just all about blasting and pounding across the water, it has a huge bow seating area, a gorgeous, like swept back rounded windshield, and a beautiful like aft cockpit.
It also has some tumble home, doesn't it?
Yeah, I haven't found a picture of the stern of this thing yet.
I think I see tumble home.
This we can't let Missy see this boat.
This boat is hot.
It is all about enjoying your time on the water.
I love look at how,
Dude.
I mean, I feel like the seats are a little throwback with the chrome, like with the way the chrome kind of goes up and around the seats. It's like, it feels a little 70s,
Yeah.
which I'm into.
They're pulling
And I don't, like, there's so many cushions. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how they got that many cushions into any boat, much less this boat.
the entire front of the boat, which I'll say is at least a third of it, is a sunken living room.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I scroll down, there's an overhead photo of the bow. It's got it's got a
Circle?
giant bolster around the entire perimeter, and then effectively like a circular couch in the middle. You walk into it, there's a round center opening, and then that's surrounded by just like an acre of cushions. There's a cabin under there somewhere. How the hell is that?
Yeah,
work?
there's definitely a cabin. There's a bed.
You know, Captain
There's a
David.
bathroom.
Captain David does not nominate a boat that lacks
Doesn't have a cabin.
that lacks a stabbing cabin. That's what it is. We told the water department people today that we're like, yeah, we try and keep it clean.
And then you said stabbing cabin.
Then I just said, stabbing
Listen,
cabin.
know thyself, right? And so it's just lovely.
It looks like a big old Donzi. It does have a little bit of tumble home at the back. It's got a long sloped stern with a huge sun pad on the back, like where you chill out.
I just can't even figure out where all these cushions are. There's so many cushions,
Yeah.
which is a great problem to have.
Yeah. This is a good boat. It's
amazing.
It's 2014.
It's a winner.
It's listed for 115 or best offer. It's on eBay, and it's the Launch 32. Like, they've got a bunch of reproduction, not reproduction. They've got a bunch of their modern models that they're totally referencing the design language of classic runabouts. And those are fine. I look at them and I kind of have some of the same reaction. Like, what's your reaction to those?
You mean from the outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it feels like the stern of it feels a little Riva-ish. Like, yeah, it's like it's referencing something older. And then, but you're right. There's a bit of sort of cigarette boat going on here. But I mean, I like it. I do. I like
love
the
it.
swept back windshield. I mean, I'm not like, from the outside, I'm not going to fall in love with it, but from the inside, I am.
Yeah. The smaller ones, I'm such a pain in the butt. Like, the smaller ones I look at and they're like, they're pretty, but it's like they're trying to be pretty. So I don't like them for some reason.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
It's like
I don't understand.
like when Julia saw that lobster boat yacht, that lobster yacht, she's like, not too pretty. And then we showed her the workboat. She's like, oh yeah. Like, I get a little bit of that from some of the smaller,
from the exteriors of these, yeah.
not from this one,
Yeah.
not from this one.
From the smaller ones.
The smaller ones, yeah. But this one hits me right in my soft spot for like hot Donzis.
I just can't believe how enormous the front seating area is. I can't get over it.
Yeah,
Never seen anything like it ever. I like it
this is a good
a
one.
lot.
Captain David, thank you. Because like, if you'd said a 2014 cruise craft, all I would have seen were the 22 to 28 foot ones.
Man,
But yeah, this one's friggin' great.
it's so great. Can we get pictures up so people can see it with us?
Yeah, I didn't get an Instagram post up last week. I've been like, because last week I was writing like a depressing chapter about AI and meta. And so I'm like, man, like, those guys.
Yeah. No, keeping it clean over there. Good job.
Yeah, I'll beep that out with them. I've been kind of enjoying using that word because I figured out how to get a foghorn sound effect for beeping out bad words. So I'm like, every once in a while, I'm like, I kind of want to use the foghorn to beep out that word.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Where is the cabin? Is it under this insane seating area?
I don't know. It's through a wormhole into another dimension, I guess. It's really, really cool.
I don't see a place for a cabin.
It's got to be under those seats.
I guess. All right.
Yeah.
Don't fly out. That is remarkable. I would just like to say hats off, Captain David. Well played, sir.
Thank you, Captain David. And of course, Captain David, you. You and
It's the boat of the week, stable or sleek. Check out that vessel, baby, isn't she sweet? It's the boat of the week, the boat of the week. Ooh, how I love me, the boat of the week.
something's happening to me. I play that song longer and longer every time I want to listen to it.
Speaking of which, do you want to talk about your reaction to the Yacht Rock?
No, you talk about I called you. You talk about my reaction to the Yacht Rock documentary.
Well, I guess the only thing I can say is that you and I had the opposite reaction. We had the exact opposite. Like, you called me and I could sense in your voice, like, you were, first of all, you gave it lots of nice compliments, which is a sure sign something is wrong. And then quickly afterwards, you said with sort of a tone of solemnity and also remorse that every single song that came out throughout the music documentary, which was a lot of songs, made you feel like you being slammed in the head with something. Like, you hated every single song.
I respect the hell out of the musicians that played all that music. I respect the hell out of like Christopher Cross. He was young and he put out his first album and he won like a whole bunch of Grammys. All of them. He won like all the categories. And I respect the hell out of Michael McDonald and all of the Toto studio musicians who would like form a band to make the music that they wanted to make, but then they'd go back and like, play all the music on the entire Michael Jackson Thriller album.
It's time for the butt.
But in the story of the documentary is very interesting. The way it set the music in the time, all the story, but like every friggin' song, it just made me feel, and I tried really hard. I feel like, okay, open mind.
You were trying not to be oppositionally defiant.
Open mind. And like they did a good job at the beginning. They're like, yeah, Yacht Rock's turned into this caricature where, ironic, sarcastic millennials and everybody around them is like wearing captain's hats and going and see Yacht Rock cover bands, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, but that's not really what was going on. Like, that all got, as we discussed, as you mentioned, that all got laid out or created by a web-based comedy series in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
So I had gotten over the fact that I don't like that whole caricature thing. I put it aside. The documentary did a good job of that.
Right.
And then they went through all the other stuff, but like every time they played a song, I was like, ugh.
You hated it.
Yeah, and I even ran some experiments on myself. I did some of my own medical experiments with this. I went and played early Doobie Brothers. I'm like, yeah, all right. And then like China Grove. And then I went and played late Doobie Brothers and early Doobie Brothers. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I'm down. And I played late Doobie Brothers. And I'm like, this makes me want to smash plates and throw chairs through windows. It's just like horrible. It's really, really fucked up. And you know why it's messed up?
I do.
Tell us.
Because we're like crowdfunding a whole Yacht Rock album.
We're gonna produce a Yacht Rock album.
Why not make more things we hate?
No, you love it. You love it, and Jay loves it, and the listeners love it. But there's something in my brain, like my wiring, that just like doesn't like it.
I know. And I just want to say that in terms of the opposite effect, like when I listened to that, every single song that came on, like I thought the rest of it was interesting, but the interesting part of it really kind of like really fell behind the fact that every single song I was just so happy to hear. I was so happy. I loved it. I loved each one. So it was very, very.
Why do you think that is?
Reactions.
Do you have was that song like the soundtrack to your childhood?
A little bit, yeah. We lived in St. Thomas for a couple of years, and I feel like St. Thomas was definitely like probably ground zero for the Yacht Rock revolution. Love Boat was playing.
Yeah.
Like, my mom like ran like a retail shop, and she sold like Halston wraparound dresses and shit. Like it was, yeah. I mean, it was, yeah. That was that. But I don't. Some of it is familiar from then, but the tone of it just makes me happy.
Okay. Well,
Different strokes.
I've had a whaler mea culpa. Perhaps I will have a yacht rock mea culpa. I'm open to it.
Know.
I'm open to it. I'm trying to grow.
I know.
I'm trying to
I
grow.
can tell you are.
Okay, good.
The fact that you sat through the whole thing is admirable.
Yeah, I was because I love that kind of documentary, but like every time they played him song, I was like, can you get back to the story, please? But what were they doing in the studio?
Hey, speaking of which, don't we have instead of a listener correction, we have a host correction, which is that I was making fun of the guy that did the podcast for messing up which movie was which, and I was wrong.
You were wrong.
He meant exactly what he said, which was The Last Dance, which is about basketball and it's a miniseries, and I meant Save the Last Dance.
Which is about a hip hop dancer who has to go into the ballet to like make a living or something, right?
It's about the confluence. Yeah, it's a love story between
So it turns out I'm not the only dick.
Yeah, I was flat wrong.
All right. Well,
it was fun anyway.
Given that we spent 18 minutes covering your hair while playing
curling hair,
your curling hair, we've had a pretty good show. This is good. Let's wrap it up.
It sounds good.
Yo ho ho, that's it for the Bodie Show. Pack the cooler, grab the lines, let's go, go, go. Yo ho 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 ho.
That's it for the Bodie Show.
Yeah, that was good. I just gave you a meaningful look, and you laid it out there. All right. Hey, anybody listening in California, especially anybody listening in LA, our thoughts are with you. And I know that I've been contemplating how I can contribute to, supporting people, supporting their entire like environment, right? And listeners, if you are doing the same, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got good charities to donate to, please share. If you have ideas for how we can all support our fellow men and women, our fellow citizens in LA. And we want to thank the province of Quebec for sending Super Scoopers. We want to thank Ontario for sending a Super Scooper. We want to thank Mexico for sending firefighters. We want to thank all of the people from all of the states and cities across the country who've gone to LA to help. And,
keep it up.
Keep it up. Our thoughts are with you. Be as well as you can be under those horrible circumstances.
Amen.
We are out.